Hello, everyone. Welcome to the continuation of this conversation we've called Transforming the World Through Reflection. This time again, we are going to invite the perspective of artists as we explore how the experience of the pandemic intersects with social injustice. My name is Melissa Shepard Williams. I'm a psychotherapist and a professor, and I'm very thankful to be here in the presence of these wonderful friends who continue to inspire me with their work. And I hope they invite you into reflection. So let me introduce you to my dear friend, Faye Griffin. Tifa is an artist with such a wide range of experience, we would be here all day. Tifa is a writer. She's a two-time NAACP award winner. Her work is in TV, film, radio, stage, live events. She's inspired so many, and even in work with children, in this process of developing their sense of creativity. She's also lectured at the Writers Guild of America, being an amazing writer, comedy, retired performer in the community of comedy, and always making me giggle. and also visual arts. So much is unfolding for Tifa, and I can't wait to hear more about this. Now let me introduce you to William Haddad. William is a psychotherapist who is also an artist. We met through our work together at Pacific Oaks College, and William specialized in trauma studies. He currently works at an agency called Advanced Cognitive and Clinical Solutions. His art background is in film. So our conversations in clinical work always involved film, always. Now let me introduce you to my dear friend, Kimiko Warner-Turner. Kimiko is a theater education professional, and she has many years of experience in the work done through Theater of the Oppressed. She was trained by the creator, Augusto Boal, and we've had opportunities to collaborate. I am so thankful for all the learning that's happening. Kimiko has been part of workshops we have done together. She leads us in movement. Kimiko has been a presenter in clinical training, and it's been such an essential part of the process of learning about healing through body work. So I am excited that you're here today so we can talk about this too. Now, let me introduce you to Dayren Santamaria. Dairen is a wonderful friend and violinist from Cuba. And she has such vast experience with artists in classical music, jazz, salsa, Cuban folkloric music. And she's played with the most renowned artists in the world. And so what a group today for us to explore, you know, what we're going through in this world today, what a 2020 we've had, and to hear it through the perspective of the artist. So shall we jump in? All right. Well, Tifa, would you please start us in this reflection? I'm really interested to hear about what your reflections have been through this experience we're all going through in the world?
Well, um, I'm very transparent, as you know, and so I'm not one of those women that have a problem telling my age. Next month, I will be 61 years old, and I was born and raised in Los Angeles, so this is not my first time at the rodeo. I was actually alive and have recollections of the Watts riots of 1965. Obviously, I was alive and well in 1992 during the LA riots. And so this is nothing new, but somehow it feels new. It feels different. Um, and I attribute it to the fact that we've never seen this much diversity in the fight. The numbers and the diversity of allies that have come alongside um, Black people, brown people, and said enough is enough, is my biggest reflection on the differences between 1992, the LA riots, and now. And I'm of the school, my primary gifting is writing. And as a storyteller, I'm well aware that every story has a beginning, a middle, an end. Everything in life has a beginning, a middle, and end. And so I'm feeling like if that is a truth, a universal truth, why can't systemic racism have a beginning, a middle, and end? And I am prayerful that we are seeing the ending or the beginning of the end. And it may not all take place in my lifetime, but I just feel this shifting. I'm seeing this shifting in a global mindset concerning racism.
Well, I so pray that this shift is like no other, especially because, like you said, with the history of protests, not only here in the U.S. but in other countries, there's something about this experience of protest that feels like a special turning point. There's such a diverse group of people out there screaming for social justice.
Absolutely. And I think the commonality that this time of unrest has with the others is that young people are leading the charge. What's different is the young people.
Mm.
The young people in the civil rights movement, young African Americans, um, some educated, some uneducated, as is today. But I think the youngsters of today, and I say youngsters because I'm an old lady, is that they have a world view, a global view that perhaps the youngsters of the 50s and 60s did not have. And so that makes their fight even more intense, even more organized, and I believe even well-intended. It's not just about changing things for Black Americans, which is the focus, but for all Americans. And I think that's the big difference between now and then.
Wow, thank you for mentioning that. It's a reflection that I had not considered and I need to go deeply into. There is something different about being young now than it was during the time of, uh, protest decades ago. So much has transformed in the world, even if systemic oppression persists, but there have been changes that give an additional perspective to the youth protesting out there today. Thank you for that. Very important point. I'm wondering about your thoughts on this also, William.
Yeah, absolutely. It's no understatement to say that this is an unprecedented time and we're watching history unfold. One thing I would to piggyback off of Faye's comments is the difference in perspective, I think, with the youth of today's generation. And I think a big part we can owe to what Faye was talking about with their increased diversity, the more worldly perspective, or kind of the more collective approach that a lot of these protests, a lot of these voices and outcries are taking, is the shift in technology and global connectivity. I was born in 91, just on the tail end of the analog era. I'm just old enough to be, say, yeah, I had cassette tapes and VHSs, but it wasn't long before that was completely gone. Yeah. And at this point now, almost 30 years later, you have an entire generation who are now, coming of age, or already have come of age, who grew up only knowing the wonderful, extraordinary environment that is interconnectivity, global interconnectivity through the power of technology, whether that be social media, whether that be studying abroad in college, whether that be just, the wealth of ways to understand and experience different types of culture over the internet, or what have you. That is something that, I think is important to account for when looking at the way people approach collective problems in society. Right. And there's no doubt to my mind that is playing a role in determining how the people who are at the core, at the heart of these protests and these calls for change are tailoring their approach.
Very true. Very true. It's interesting. And even though, like you said, you were at the tail end of analog time, it's interesting to see, this is just a parenthesis, that there's quite a bit of analog technology that's re-emerging. But anyway, it's true that the technology that we have available now makes it possible to be better aware of what's happening. And this is part of what galvanized the world community to protest. All these injustices that have been known for years and years now get filmed and seen worldwide. We were witnesses to injustice, and it couldn't be denied. So technology definitely plays quite a role. Something that we've been also reflecting on is the idea that the pandemic causing this quarantine to be ongoing is not experienced in the same way by everyone, because although we are at this stage of technology, not everybody has access to this technology so that they could carry out things like telework or schoolwork on screen. And that, again, speaks to unequally distributed resources that are evidence of this systemic oppression. I'm wondering, Kimiko, what your thoughts are about what it's been like to go through this quarantine where not everybody has the same resources to move through it.
My views get stronger and stronger and more emotional about this. I don't think that there has ever been a time in education that I've witnessed that there has been a growth in inequity. And I fear for the inequity that's going to continue next year. And that is because, like you say, this the lack of technology, access to technology that people are experiencing right now is really apparent, and the fact that during this pandemic we have children that are at home, and many more latchkey children. We will be going into September with latchkey children, and it is hard for children to be online, to take instruction through Zoom or any other platform for a long period of time. So I'm very very concerned. So while technology, I am being shot into the realm of technology, teaching my art and interacting with youth, and that provides me a lot of avenues to explore. How am I going to teach them? When am I going to Zoom? Can I use PowerPoint presentation?
Right.
What about using, YouTube videos, and it's right there, and thinking about how art plays a huge role in keeping the youth engaged at this time.
Yes.
I'm also I'm concerned because some people have a phone, some people have a laptop, some people have two computers. And
Right.
so this variance of access is one that I'm really gonna fight for, and also the shifting of children from the public schools into private schools, forcing teachers to go into a classroom before things are really set in stone, and health situations are provided for everyone. Yeah, it's a big concern. So I just want everyone to wear a mask when you go into public, and know that they're keeping children out of school.
It's a really important thing to sit with, the consequences of our choices. Yes. Well, Dairen, you and I have had conversations about the role technology is playing in your life as an artist these days. So please share with us a bit more about that.
Well, I have been able to get all the equipment that I need to start working from home and recording as well. It is a process because there are different contacts and different connections that I need to have. But I am in the process of it, and I'm learning to record myself. And it is just an amazing experience. And just to talk about technology and what you were talking before about systemic racism, it's just amazing that now it's just a very interesting time. We can see everything. There is nothing hidden anymore. And it is amazing how so many people are coming together from different races and supporting the fact that yes, that they understand and think that things need to change.
Yeah.
And it is also interesting for me and also very frustrating that sometimes I have to get away for a while from the social media because I just my blood pressure comes up and I'm like, no, this is not okay. It's just like in these times that we can see everything. Like it's right there on our phones. We can see the reality. We can see the truth of what is going on. Still, so many people decide to put it like to blind themselves into the truth and just keep supporting something that is not real. It's like for me, it's like very hard to believe that still that is happening in front of our eyes, and some people decide not to believe in it just because they're taking benefit on it, just because they haven't been paying taxes for the last 3 years. Then they just want to support something that is not true. And the thing is that, yeah, that's okay. You're not, for example, so many people haven't been paying taxes for 3 years because their income is greater than $75,000 or something like that. And I say to myself, okay, that is, you are, you're happy about that. But when you think about it, who is paying the taxes then in this country? The people who doesn't have enough. Then we are the ones supporting everything else that that the taxes get paid and things like that. Is like there's a point, like, yeah, you want things for yourself. You want to you know, to grow spiritually, mentally, financially, but you also need to have a sense of respect for other people and a sense of that we're all human and we're all living in the same nation. And it's so important to also think of other people. You know, it's like it just doesn't make sense for me. So many things that are going on, and that makes me sad.
Mm.
Those are people that, you know, they support me. They go to my shows, and when I just go to Facebook a little bit, I just get all these messages from everyone and talking so many things that I'm like, how are you going to do that? And these times that are so important, so critical times. And some of my friends from from Cuba saying that no, that there is no systemic racism, that that is not true. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean,
Mm.
it's like, how can you say that living in this country and living in Cuba as well, where we have systemic racism all over the world, and that's something that it needs to change. So, like, like just seeing how some people are unable to see the truth on themselves just because of their own benefit, it just saddens me sometimes.
Mm.
Sometimes I'm like, no, I'm just gonna clean my apartment and try to, you know, to put all of the negativity away for a little bit. But then, you know, I really need to know what's going on because I have a daughter. I support my family. I need to know what's going on with the country. Where are we going? How are we doing health wise? And at the beginning, I was like, we got this, like virus. We got this as a nation. We got it. We're gonna be okay in a month or in a few weeks. And as the time I was telling you that at the beginning, I was like, we took a break from the TV show that we were doing, and I was home, and I started like being very creative. I wrote a song, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna take a few days just to relax and to create more. But as I saw how everything was unfolding and all those excuses and all the nonsense, and so many people supporting the nonsense, that I'm like, wait a minute. And then that, you know, how people say the light at the end of the tunnel, that I thought that it was closer, it got farther and farther. So I'm like, wait a minute, like when, and you know, it's 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months. It's like, and we still don't know when this is going to end. A little bit, you know, scary and frustrating. And just, I just want people to just be sincere with themselves and stop thinking so much on greed. I mean, this nation from the beginning, from when people started coming, pilgrims started coming from Europe, it was greed that got them to push away the Native Americans farther west and farther west, and just they just didn't care about them, and they just wanted land, they just wanted more land, and it was greed. And we just need to learn from those, you know, from those times. We need to learn from it, and we just need to say, okay, it's good to have a little bit, but you have enough. You need to be able to share, and you need to be able to let other people leave. You cannot just put your foot onto someone's neck just because you think you're superior, and it just doesn't make sense anymore. And I think it's time for more people to come together and understand that it's not okay for you not to pay taxes when people who have nothing are paying taxes. You know, it's not okay because we all need to support the system, support it. You know, it's like it's just not okay to be just thinking about yourself. It's time for us to think about everyone else. And for musicians, it's very hard. You know, like sometimes we are able to do one or two Zoom concerts, but it's not the same. It's not the same income, and we still have to pay rent. We still have to pay taxes, and we're not very good at having musicians in general at having a good like unemployment records of things like that. So we many musicians cannot depend on that because they're just doing gigs here and there and trying to survive. And it's just not okay because we don't know when we're going to be able to perform again. And and everything is politicized. So I'm like, wait a minute, this is health. We're talking about health. We're talking about people's lives. No politics, please. Just take it away. You know, just let's feel. So it's very intense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I'm listening to you, I can hear the frustration and the pain about noticing this experience prolonging itself, and for so many different reasons, including privilege, interfering with the forward movement of, health practices that keep us all safe. And there's so many layers to these reflections. I was struck also by what you shared about people who either can't or choose not to see reality about inequities. And I have a question I'd like to ask all of you, and let's go deeply into this if we can. What do you see uh, as the role of the arts in opening the world's eyes about these challenges of being human? Kimiko and then Tifa.
Arts, to me, arts just plays a role in breaking through what we're talking about, these biases, right? Biases, I'm very interested in bias right now and how it fuels a false hope, how people can migrate toward other individuals who have the same kind of false bias in order to get through this pandemic, the racial injustice, all of this perfect storm of lack of medical care that we're having right now, to say everything's okay, it's all a hoax. And people will agree. And I think that arts plays a huge role in allowing people to show true history that has been hidden. A lot has been said, recently about Tulsa and this boom in the African American population that were just amazing merchants, and how the Ku Klux Klan came in and destroyed it. And that is not in our history books. I think that's what this exciting time is that arts is a way to begin conversation. I don't want us to be seduced into thinking it's the end, but it is a catalyst to just bringing issues into focus that we need to keep in the forefront of everyone in order to move forward. So I think arts plays a huge, huge role in our healing processes. We must heal using the arts.
Yes, the arts have truly been essential throughout history. Speaking of bias, I tend to share with my students in our clinical training program my bias. I feel that it is difficult, if not impossible, to learn about pain and healing without the arts. And so no matter what is our coursework, the arts are always in the mix, always in the mix. Tifa, I'd like to hear your thoughts.
I absolutely agree with Kimiko's statements and yours. The arts are essential. They are essential to where we're going as a nation, as a world. What the arts have the ability to do, particularly the visual arts and performing arts, is it holds a mirror up to humanity and says, look at yourself. Art not only heals, it screams at you. It yells, it disrupts, it causes you to flinch. And it causes you, as Kimiko just said, to be introspective and to really think about, where do I fit in this color? Where do I fit in this song? Where do I fit in this this movement? Whatever that type of art is, we see ourselves, we see humanity. If you think back in about this time last year, the Broad downtown had that wonderful Soul of a Nation.
Soul of a Nation.
Which was just absolutely world shattering for me. And it was prophetic in a way because it was about protest art from the I think it was from the late 1950s, early 60s through the 80s and 90s, and seeing how visual arts played such a big role, whether it was, we see it now, in the creativity of the signs that are made and the posters and now the memes, to William's point about how important and how influential modern technology has become. You can't scroll a timeline without seeing some meme of so many times so artfully done, because at the end of the day, what's the saying? You can't legislate morality. You can't legislate away systemic racism in toto. It just cannot be done, to Kimiko's point of it not ending. However, it can be addressed. It can be shown in its full life. It can uncover. It can shake a people. And I think that's the importance of visual art. So these murals that we see, how can you drive past a mural with the face of everyone from Emmett Till to Trayvon to George, to God, oh God rest him, this one hurts so much, blessed little Elijah, and I'm trying not to get emotional. How can you drive past a mural of Sandra Bland and Breonna Taylor and not feel something? And not feel something. So that's whether it's rage, good or bad, whether you are oppose it or not, it will cause you to come face to face. Art will cause you to come face to face with yourself and your beliefs and your perspective about what's happening. So it is essential. Yes. And then finally, to your point, Melissa, about the healing properties of it. When we were preparing earlier to come on, and I said I was sketching, you took us through that wonderful breathing exercise. But before that, I had been sketching because that's how I deal with my feelings of anxiety. I pick up a pen. I was watching a TED Talk with Chantel Martin. I don't know if you're familiar with her. Dynamic, Google her. She is a phenom, Chantel Martin, and she simply does line drawings. It's the most amazing thing. But that's where she got started. She's a biracial Londoner, lesbian. She has all these things that society would stonewall her, particularly in the art world. And her drawing was her savior. Her drawing, her pen, just taking a pen and drawing a line saved her. And that's the power of art in this time.
Yes, 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 yes. I'm thankful that I have the opportunity to work with artists because I serve as one of the clinicians at California Institute of the Arts. And to be in conversation with artists has been such an amazing learning experience for me. To hear an artist speak about their life experience in the language of their art making. and the healing that they have found in that process is just heartening. So the power of the arts cannot be denied, cannot be denied. William, you had some comments to share.
Yes, thank you. Well, and great insight so far too, I want to say. It's true, you know, we hear the saying all the time, art reflects reality. It is a mirror, as Faye pointed out, of what is happening now, but also not just what's happening, but what people are thinking and feeling inside. And I would go even farther than that. I would say that art is, you know, it's something to heal with, it's something to learn with, it's something to express yourselves with. It's an incredibly versatile resource. And one thing I've noticed just from my own experience with film and television and all the, you know, countless hours of content I've poured over is you do start to notice patterns where major issues, societal issues are concerned. I only just recently started watching the series Mad Men, which, you know, I'm sure a lot of you know about. It was a huge hit at the time, but that was 2007, so it's been a little bit now since it came out. But that show, to me, it offers a couple of things. One, it's a fascinating time capsule into the culture of America in the 1960s. But even if it's not historically accurate per se, even when you're watching a period piece like Mad Men or a historical epic, you know, about another part of history, by being able to read between the lines and really think about not so much is this accurate to the time, but just what are these people saying? You know, what are the ideas that they're expressing? How are they reacting to adversity and to pain? That can be an extremely insightful experience, because you start to see how people over time have constantly been struggling and fighting these battles, you know, literally and metaphorically on all fronts against these terrible issues. I know for me that some of us, we like to watch movies, you know, to escape reality, to go to a place where nothing is the matter. And maybe we'll, you know, talk some more about that later on. But for me, I think one of the best ways you can help do your part to instigate the change now is use film, use media, well, not media news, but just, you know, visual art of any kind as a way to educate yourself on the nuances and the diversity of reactions and emotions to these issues. Because I'm reminded of something I saw also in a TED Talks about a man who used to be part of the neo-Nazi skinhead movement in America, but who stopped, who changed, and you know, is now speaks out against it every chance he can get. But he described the turning point was when he was working at a record store, and a young black boy came in and was ordering some music and just talking with him. And the boy told him about how one of his family members had cancer. And it was in that moment that the you know, when he was still a member of the movement, that this man felt that first instance of empathy towards a person who up till this point had been a member of this group that he had been working actively to oppress and harm and be very, very cruel towards. And so all it takes, that my takeaway from his story was that all it takes is one instance where you as a person are able to connect emotionally to something that is outside your comfort zone, outside your cultural familiarity. It doesn't matter if you are, you know, it's not about whether or not you're trying to change or if you're dealing with issues of racism inside yourself. It's simply about increasing your perspective and learning to be more than you are. And art is no question, art is so easy to access. There's endless ways that you can do that now with technology. Film, audiobooks, pictures, art museums, songs, music, like what Dayren was talking about. And all it takes is one instance where you feel really, really connected to something that is of a different culture or a different mindset. And just like that, you are now part of this greater consciousness that is shifting towards a more connected, a more connected society that embraces and respects difference rather than pushes against it.
So as I'm listening to you, William, the ideas that connection can invite us to reflect on, that moment of connection, like you said, connection being a key word, allows us to expand our perspective, not only about others, but definitely ourselves. And I should say this is one of the reasons this conversation I hope stimulates reflection, because reflection supports us in that process of broadening our perspective, catching a panoramic view of a situation rather than remain in the tunnel vision of agitation. So I'm thankful to hear you mention connection and how the arts can lead us into that experience of connection, for healing, and that community is such a big part of this. In connection, we have a sense of community. We're social beings. And so connection, like water for soup, essential to healing. This reminds me of you, Kimiko, because of the work that you do in Theater of the Oppressed and Theater of the Optimist, that invites us into a sense of community and envisioning shifts as a community. Please share some more about this.
Well, as you were speaking, and this idea of being collective, I guess, or coming to the collective inspiration to move forward. What comes to mind is just the simple act of actually unpacking what a photograph or a picture means to people in a group. Because, and I speak to this because I think about individualism and our individualized experiences becoming the collective. And so when we go into a museum or something and we see this art, we take it in, and we know that people who are in the museum are also there because they want to learn and they want to be enlightened, or they hear music because they want to be enlightened and hear the emotion coming out of pieces that will change their perspective and add to their perspective. They're lifelong learners. And the Theater of the Oppressed or Theater of the Optimistic is all under a participatory practice. And so what I love is in working with that practice is that it's the process that it focuses on as we then get to a final product, and it is multi-hierarchical, so that we really want to level the input of individuals in order to, or, value the contributions of everyone in order to get to the final product. There isn't the director, as it is in, I think, Western, Northern European, creative aspirations and things like that. It needs to be done by the community, so it can be done by everyone. And I think it goes back to what Tifa was implying, this idea of sparking, this idea of shaking things up within a community, and gaining allies and saying, I feel shook up too. Let's do something about it. So when we see that now Black Lives Matter, and people lying on the ground in mass to experience 8 minutes of not being able to breathe, that is aesthetic space being used by everyone in the community, this collective feeling of, but it is art at the same time, to see everyone come together. And it's emotional, because we've taken the time to share that space with everyone. So I think, and it keeps the urgent issues, these ideas that, I say trauma, right? We are in trauma in our communities now, and that's our starting point. And the Theater of the Oppressed helps to keep that in the forefront, what communities are feeling, and let it be expressed non-violently to the masses, but also gaining input from everyone. Gaining input from everyone is so important at this time. And I think the formation of committees right now, that's the starting point. We did that after Rodney King. But there are still spaces, for instance, in South Los Angeles that have never been redeveloped. There were promises made, and then there were promises broken, and we moved on to something else. So this momentum that Tifa was talking about, or this idea that that we need to go beyond that and keep it moving, is so important to get to a dream. And that's also what the practice is about, is to get to a realistic world, or a dream, a globalized thought process that does end racism, that does allow people to live together through truth that is brought about by art, through art.
Yeah. Well, in terms of the arts can move us through difficult times, I am curious also about the experience of being an immigrant. Not only because I am, but so many people in my life are. And in this group, I would like to consult with you, Dairen, both of us Latinas, immigrants with a particular relationship with the arts in our countries of origin. I'm from Panama, you are from Cuba. And I'm wondering how that has contributed to your life, to your wellness. How have the arts sustained you in this process of going through crisis outside of our countries?
Well, art records history. It has done it from since the beginning of times. And it's always like that. And with my life, it's the same thing. My life is recorded in songs, in paintings, and poems that I have written. And it is amazing how we do that. All the nostalgia of living my country, my family, everything, the culture, the language, everything fine. And just come to a country and meeting so many wonderful people and
Mhm.
people that open their lives their to me without knowing me and trusted me without knowing me, and they're still my best friends. And it's just amazing how life works, and we can record everything, and the music that we make, and we do it all the time. We express that every time that we perform because it just comes out of our bodies. It's just like
Mhm.
that. And it is just amazing how we can use art to communicate, to record our history and
Yeah.
everyone else's history, everything that is going on at every moment of our lives. But also, like William said, it cannot be just that. We also need to talk to people like what you're doing right now. It's amazing. Communicate, because just a conversation and the music on the music store with
Mhm.
a kid, it's just changed the life of someone else. It's changed the
Yes.
perspective or something that it was so important to them, because
Mhm.
maybe from generations and generations that person was taught that this is the way, the right way to do, and because of their family ties, or I don't know, God knows why, they thought that those values were important.
Mhm.
But the conversation with someone changed everything right away, and
Mhm.
changed his heart as well. So we use art, and art have been used um, the whole time, and we can see the beautiful music and the horrible images of the Holocaust, and the
Mhm.
all these great movies and amazing masterpieces, and the sadness and the horror um,
Mhm.
behind them, and everything is reflected in art. But it cannot. I would. This is such an important moment that I I don't want it to end just like that, in a mural, just in a piece of music, and us talking about art. We need to keep going, like you were saying. We need to keep going, keep talking to people, like pouring
Mhm.
our hearts out and telling them what we feel, so people can understand, and really make it change and end what is just overdue for so long. It just needs to
Mhm.
end. And the beautiful thing is that it happened here in US, but as well other countries were responding. Why is that? Because there's systemic racism everywhere. There was
Everywhere.
systemic racism in Cuba, everywhere.
Mhm.
And people is like, no, there's no racism in Cuba. I'm like, yes, yes, everywhere is like that, and we need to end it. There's disrespect for black women. There are black women hurting, and why is that? Well, because many people don't want their children what to go through the things that they went through, so they might marry someone lighter, or someone who's just so they don't go through the same things that they went through. We were talking about the documentary Dark Girls, and I
Girls.
know
Mhm.
my daughter, and it's just amazing. The first one and the second one, I loved it because it's just so many truths that it just needs to come out. And yes,
Yes.
we need therapy because we're hurting, and we've been hurting for so long.
Mhm.
Yeah, sometimes we lie. We say we're okay, and I can handle that. And no, we need therapy. We need to talk. We need to open our hearts that are, in pain, because
Yes.
otherwise, that's some of my insecurity comes from that. My mom was a theater actress. She is here with me, and I take care of her. She was a theater actress in Cuba, and all through her life, we were talking a few days ago, and she was kind of sad and just talking about her life, and she had been trying and trying and trying, and how hard have been. And while we were talking about it, and I'm like, Mom, look at this opportunity you had. Look at this amazing opportunity you had. Look at this opportunity you had to be the director of the. You didn't take it, and why? Because of her own insecurities,
Mhm.
the own systemic racism that lets you know you're not enough. You cannot
Mhm.
do this. You are not able to do this because of your facial, the way your face look, because of your skin color. And all of these is just unconsciously stopping us from doing so many things, and
Yes.
therapy to heal,
Yes.
And then other people also need to understand our pain so they can open their minds. And like that man in that music store say, okay, I get it. Yeah, I get it. I need to stop this nonsense.
Yes.
Hopefully it will happen soon. And all these hate and all this government craziness is just leading and taking all of our emotions out. And that's why these, revolution of emotions is going on right now. And I really hope that it's for a change. And I really hope that the end of systemic racism and colorism and just the hate for others in general will stop soon.
Well, I'm with you, and I'm with you in that uh, sense of we are in a revolution, emotionally having a revolution, not just uh, in the uh, experience of going out in the street and screaming. Internally, a revolution is happening, and it's necessary so that we can move forward with this healing. And I will submit the healing is not only for the oppressed, but also for the oppressor, because uh, these ideas that have moved from one generation to another, causing pain in the lives of the oppressed, such as in colorism, like you were talking about, Dairen, where we would internalize a belief that lighter complexion means that we're better. This is taking in these beliefs imposed by the oppressor, and there's a survival component in trying to move that belief forward. At the same time, the oppressor is surviving their fear as well, of discovering that whatever they've been telling themselves to sustain, to justify their actions, is not true. And it's not going to match the so-called moral values that they have. It's been going on for centuries. And, all of us in this group, we've had these conversations. William and I, being clinicians, have had this discussion many, many times. What the oppressor needs to unpack and what oppressed peoples of the world also need to unpack. There's so much. One thing I would add that has been part of our conversations is that we need to take responsibility for our healing. And the arts are supporting us in that process. For that, I am so thankful. And I appreciate that you all have been here willing to share your thoughts, your feelings about how the arts sustain us, the arts can move us forward so that this current experience creates a shift in our world. I want to thank all of you for being here. And so let's keep going. Let's keep moving forward. Thank
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.